Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys.
And yeah, we're just gonna talk about, this is just a podcast where we talk about games, RPGs, and all sorts of stuff that comes to our mind. And Ramon, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you feel 100 times more excited to record this episode right now?
Really? that's how we're gonna roll into this. Yeah. Hi everybody. Guess what? We reached 100 subscribers. Woo!
Yeah, the big 100. Just happened a few days ago. Yeah, I didn't know how else to drop that news other than terribly.
If you guys thought Calvin did a good job at that intro, you just give us a like.
Yeah, or a subscribe if you haven't yet. But yeah, we've 100. That's pretty big. It's I don't know. I'm happy with it. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, no, it's like super cool. I mean, it's just like a number, but it's kind of nice to see 3 digits on there. I mean, it's not gonna. It feels like we're doing something good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously people like what we're doing. Like I had my own personal gaming channel and I didn't hit 100, but now we have, and we've been able to record some regular episodes of the podcast, which means a lot to me because I like being able to do something consistent and producing something. So, yeah, go us! But also.
Go.
Like a big thank you and a big shout out to everybody who's been, watching and supporting the channel.
Yeah.
Like I know we're just, starting out and stuff, but it means a lot to get to this sort of milestone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, let's jump into it. Let's just talk about the stuff.
Yeah, so let's talk about stuff. So on a previous episode, like 1 or 2 episodes ago, we had talked about changing like a GM or DM or whatever the term may be for your game. When you have an idea of what you want to do in a game, and then your PCs, your players, they do something completely different and it throws you off. And I had mentioned I had a combat plan in one particular space, but because the players found one of the imps that was hiding and waiting to attack them, and instead of blasting it, they grabbed it and started to interrogate it. I was like, okay, this seems more interesting than just a straight up combat. So we were talking about this. We were still talking about this later. And Ramon, you had a particular story that you had wished that you had mentioned at the time.
Yeah. So I totally forgot, and this is like a very clear representation of that. So my players at the time, they were tasked to infiltrate this noble's castle and retrieve, this elven medallion. By retrieve, I mean obviously steal, right?
Yes.
So they kind of they cased the place, right? So they kind of walked around and kind of looked at points of entries, and they saw that the castle was on top of this hill, and the front part of the hill had this really long road, and they had like guards posted and all that stuff. So it wasn't really that great of a place to try and sneak in, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But around the back, it's more of like a wooded area, and they found after sneaking around that there was like a path to like a little bit of like a underground cave system that they could probably use to get inside the castle, right? Because as a DM, I'm like, yeah, of course, I put a way for them to sneak into the castle, which would be kind of cool because I thought it would be kind of funny if they went through, saw some stuff that was going on underneath, because they fought some orcs on their way to the castle. Mm-hmm. And the orcs and the whole area, there's been like a problem with orcs, but after killing some orcs, they found like this nobleman's seal and like a letter, like a parchment or something, basically just saying if these orcs presented this parchment to like any soldiers or something, or any they would just let them go, right?
Yeah.
Because the nobleman was actually paying these orcs to capture these people, right, or terrorize the place. So there's big conspiracy going on, like, oh yeah, nobleman's a bad guy, right? So it should be good to steal from bad guys, right? So then they were gonna go underneath and see like this is where all the orcs are taking them, because nobody sees where the orcs take the people up to the back of the castle and do some stuff to them, right? I think they just went in, and I think there was one fight that got fucked up, and then they're like, you know what, forget this back part, we're just gonna go straight to the front door. Right? I bet we could just lie our way in. And they're like, okay, cool. So I was like, fine. And like, I did not have anything prepared. I only prepared the bottom part of the castle, right, Cal? Because why would
obviously
they go to the front door
that way?
Right. So then I went. They went to the front, and then instantly one of my players was like, because they're here to steal a medallion, they're like, we're here for the medallion, right? And and basically just gave themselves up instantly, right? And their thought was like, if we just tell them what we're here for, they might just think that we're supposed to be here and just let us in, right?
Sure.
That weird reverse psychology, I guess. But so hilarity ensues, and obviously they let them in. Yeah, they let them into the castle, right? And then I had to invent the noble lord's butler, essentially. And it was like, okay, I'll escort you to this room, and they told them to leave all their weapons at the door, right? Everyone was kind of worried about that, but they did it, right? Because they're trying to play along. They let all the weapons at the door. They get escorted into this room. This room has no windows, just one door in, one door out, right? And they go into the room, and it says, oh, this is the waiting room. Our lord will be here momentarily, or whatever, right, to greet you, right? So they go, closes the door, and locks it, right? So they're locked in the room, and then so my idea of trying to save the situation was, okay, now the door is locked, they can't get out. I'm gonna pump some sleeping gas into the room, and they'll be all knocked out, and then I'll bring them back down to the dungeon, so I don't have to like make up anything more. I can just reuse the stuff, right? Yeah, that didn't happen either. Oh boy. Right. So one of my players, he's a barbarian. He's like, all right, screw this. I'm like having like a PTSD freak out. I'm going to grab a chair and smash the door down. And I was like, okay, or just, roll an attack or whatever, right? With the chair. He just rolls a nat 20. Wow. I was like, okay, well, the door is obliterated, and you come frothing out of the mouth like, right? So you're like, you're not gonna get me this time. And then he's like, okay, I attacked the first person I see. And I was like, with what? Just a chair leg. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, yep. Yes.
Right. And then the only person in the room, because the butler was there, he's like, oh no, right? And then there's like this poor old butler man. He just kind of he rolls his attack dice, and what do you know? He rolls another 20 and just straight up murders this guy.
Oh, that poor guy.
Just obliterates him. And then
sure no works for villains.
Yeah, I know, right? So then it was really funny because after that we're like, he's like, I can feel the power, and he looks at the broken chair leg, and he's like, I bet the chair leg made me do it. The chair leg. And he's like, why? Right? Because he was only he wasn't trying to like attack him to kill him, but I was like, he's trying to knock him out with the chair leg. Yeah. And I was like, no way, man, you're like a strong ass barbarian, you rolled a 20, like that guy's dead. Like,
yeah, I mean, you come in like that.
Right. So now I have nothing prepared. They're running through the castle, right? Like they're just running through the castle, and I had to quickly figure out in my mind what the castle was. So I had these dungeon tiles from Etsy. They're made from like stacks of cardboard. And they're awesome, and they're really nice, and I really wanted to use them, but I was trying to prepare for it later, right? Because I didn't expect them to I drew out a whole dungeon for like the whole dungeon, but I didn't draw the castle or figure that out. So then I just started laying the tiles down. like I was like, this one looks good, this one looks good, this looks like stairs, here's the stairs, right? Yeah. And I was like, and I just told them like, the noble lord lives on the top floor because he's the boss, so you just get to the top floor. and then my wife who's playing in the game, she just her druid has like the highest speed. She was like 40 feet per round or something like that, like per stride. Yeah. And then she's just like, well, okay, I move 120 and just go and forget about all the guards and stuff. I'll just run. I'm gone. And she's just bolting up the stairs while while the other two characters try and fend off the guards while my wife's just running around the castle trying to find those noblemen. Right.
Strategy.
So I'm there. Right. But like, here's the thing, right? Because now that was even sillier because now I have a physical tiles. I have to search through all the tiles to try and find which one fits where, right?
Oh,
so I'm there.
yeah.
So I'm there scrambling to make up something, which they thought I was a genius. They're like, "Oh my God, Rowan, you're so cool. You're like putting down the tiles because as Abby's going, like the board's building. It's the first time they've ever used like dungeon tiles, right? Because they're new to the game, and it's like I'm putting down the stuff. They're like, "Whoa, what do you mean you have so much?" You know what I mean? Like, out of literally complete tragedy, I made a crazy experience that like they'll never forget.
Yeah.
Right.
That's DMing right there.
Yeah, man, it was so funny, and I remember before too, because the castle is next to like a town. They went to the town. There were some guards there, right, from the castle, and they were mingling with them before. And then as we were going up, I think they went to like the guard quarters, and I had one of the people they met, right, be there and try to stop my wife. Yeah. He was like, "Dude, what are you doing? We're friends." And she's like, "No."
Not anymore.
Yeah, like she's so savage, man. The guy was like unarmed trying to stop her, and she just murdered her with her druid claws. And I was like, "Oh man, she's a stone cold killer." And her excuse was like, "He was just in my way." Oh, so
as
good,
often happens with that party.
Yeah, as often happens.
Yeah, this is before Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, because it's before you even joined, and your character was just like a regular person, but it was hilarious because you as a person had never heard the thing that happened, right?
Yeah, so I was in character and in person, like hearing these stories of what happened. It's just like, what? What did you do?
Right. And then it was like, so you guys are trying to sneak into like another city, right?
Yeah.
And because of what's it called? And like you guys are like, I don't know, we need to find like a cart or something to sneak in so we could ride in it or whatever, right? And I was like, yeah, sure, okay. A cart shows up, and the same character with his stick was like trying to like knock out the cart driver so he can take his cart. He just rolls a nat 20, and I was like, no, that dude's dead again. And he's like, no, not again. And I remember your line was like, what do you mean? What do you mean not again? It was so good. It was so genuine because you're like, what?
Yeah, that was at least 50% me, if not more.
Yeah, it was hilarious. And then we got then like the player like named the club JoJo. And then JoJo the Possessed Club happens, and I made it like a special item, gives him like a free attack, and then eventually I just gave him the power into like his main weapon that he uses because I thought it was like way cooler, and like everyone's really happy with all that stuff because like in that campaign I'm like everyone gets special cool items that I custom make for them because all you guys want to do is talk to bakers anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but also have things.
Yeah, here have these things to make you happy.
Yeah, because part of what I like about that story, among like everything I like about that story, is just the how we're here for the Medallion is sort of a meme in that group even before I got there. And I don't know, that's something I like about like different RPG groups is you like as you're making your own stories, you also make your own in jokes and different things that only your group would like specifically get, and it only exists within this fictional world that you're all imagining.
Yeah, man, it's so good. Yeah, so that's like an example, which I don't know why I blanked on it last episode. That's like the best example I got, man. Oh my God.
It is. It really is like just a very like accurate example of that sort of thing, because you're like, now you have to scramble to figure things out on the fly as something you didn't anticipate is happening, but it's brilliant because the players are enjoying it so much.
And the worst part is when they were going through the castle, because my wife, I decided to just forget everything and just kind of sped off, right? I had to build out 2 floors at the same time.
Yep.
So like I was also running out of dungeon tiles as I was laying them down, and things are just kind of all over the place. And I was just like, oh man, this is crazy. And like I had to put like the miniatures down, and I was running out of miniatures because there were like 2 floors of bad guys, and I was like, oh god, hope everyone's having fun. Which I think everybody was, because they were like, it was this mad scramble, and everybody was like, oh man, what do we do? And my wife just books it and was just like, I'm just gonna go kill this guy, get the thing, because I don't really understand rules, because I lived in the forest for about like 50 years, so who gives a shit?
Exactly.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it. It's just a really fun group, and that's a really fun story. And as much as I would have liked to be there, I also like the experience of just learning about it secondhand.
Yeah, man. Oh, and like another, like they have like, I don't know, I think I pulled off like crazy good DMing in that group, because like I remember when you guys did that one mission for Morningstone, where you guys had to go fight. Yeah, where like your new character, like immediately I just dived into your backstory. Like basically the next session you were playing with her, and like you had to go attack that pirate camp, right? Yeah, like literally all of that was made up. Like I'm pretty sure I found like a 1-page pamphlet of like an adventure, and I was like, okay, I could run with this. And it was basically like there's some pirates asleep, there's a booby trap, and there's like a boat, you have to cross a moat area underground, and there's a bunch of zombies that come out of the water and try and kill you. That was it. And then we had, like, and then like I weaved all of that into like this crazy story where you found like your mom's stuff, and it was like the ship that you were on, and I was like,
because like my character, I should probably explain, like my character in that game, she is currently a totally legitimate sailor, but also basically a pirate. She was born on a pirate ship. She was part of a pirate family for a long time, until they were betrayed and yada yada, and her parents were killed in this battle. So at this point, where after she joined the party because she was just hired for transport, and there was a whole thing with that. But she was basically just hired. She was hired for transport, so she's been transporting the PCs. But she's become part of the party, and like we were tasked with dealing with some pirates who were messing up some shipping stuff in a new town that we had landed at, and we went in there, and we went in this cove cave kind of thing. And yeah, we came across parts of a ship, and we came across some pirate zombies. And I remember this moment because I had asked you if any of the zombies seemed familiar. And that
was the biggest mistake you possibly could have said, Calvin. Like, oh man, like in that moment, it was just like, and one of them's your dad.
Yeah, because you said yes, and I was like, oh no, I just gave you the weapon you're about to strike me with.
Yeah, it was man. So good.
It was a very emotional moment for Helen.
Yeah, it was hilarious because it was, so you and Misty went off to sneak around the main cabin area, right?
Yeah, the two responsible people.
Yeah, the two responsible people where you guys are really funny because, you're the leader when you're on the ship because you're the captain, but she's the leader because she's the gang leader when she's on land, right? So the two responsible people went off and then left the two jabronis
to go set fire.
Yeah, my wife and the barbarian to go and just not get themselves killed, pretty much. Right?
They did really well, though. Just I'll say, setting fire to the entire pirate camp and funneling people.
Right, because like I didn't know what they were gonna do. There was just 30 pirates. The thing just said there's like 30 to 40 pirates just here, but most of them are asleep. And I was like, okay. Right. My wife is like, she looked at her spell list. She's like, oh, flaming sphere. I mean, like, are they just like, is this thing just like a cabin made out of wood? And it's clearly said that like this thing is just kind of shabby and made out of wood, like mostly just like like leaves and shit for the roofs. And I was like, okay. She's like, okay, well, I mean, I'll just cast flaming sphere and then I'll just move the flaming sphere all over the place so the whole cabin's on fire. And I was like, hot damn, she did it. But then it's like, I don't think that all of the pirates would just die, immediately. I think
they didn't.
Yeah, right, they didn't. So like half of them died, and like I had them, it was fun for because I think that one half of the party was having like these crazy emotional and discoverable moments, right? Where you're like having like Helen's having flashbacks and Missy's like trying to comfort her, while like on the other side of the camp there's like this crazy fire, people are trying to run out for their lives, and then like some of the pirates coming up, they're all like burnt up and they're still, and then my wife and the barbarian are just standing right in front of them, just like cutting them down as they run out, right? Like and they're having tons of fun, like everyone's having tons of fun, which like I was super surprised because I think it's the first time I really split the party, and I'm glad that it worked, because like now I feel very confident to do that again.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever. I mean, we probably have. I'm trying to remember if you've ever had like a party split that's significant, where we're just like in two very separate locations, like outside of I can get to them within a round or two.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think it was the first time we've ever done that. And then afterwards, everyone was like, "That's awesome. We should do that more often." And I was like, but it was interesting because I think it took a load off of, just always trying to kind of like look for the instance to kind of jump back into the story, right?
Yeah.
Because all they had to do was wait till the camera pans back to them, and they were able to just be, like an audience to what's going on and someone else's the other side of the party, right?
Yeah.
Because like once like my wife and the barbarian were like done their turn of combat, because it was kind of intense, because eventually like the pirates are all going to come out and they're going to maybe overwhelm them, we didn't know, but they came back, and then like all the revelations you were having, they were like, what? And then like every time we switch back to the camera, like you guys were like into like the combat, and it's like, oh my god, how many pirates are there? Are they ever gonna stop? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was good. It was like you guys, if someone wants to split the party, I think that you should do it. Yes. If you're a DM out there, just give it a shot. I think that it works really well if it's one side's doing like negotiations or role playing or something, the other side's doing a combat. If you're ever that kind of situation, that's a perfect time, because then it's not always just like, oh, it's my turn, I gotta roll dice and hit. It's like you could have that good back and forth, and as soon as somebody has a revelation on the narrative side, you switch back to the combat and the action starts again. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's all about like the pacing of the moments at that time. But I think also what's really important there from the player perspective is just being a fan of other people's characters.
Yeah.
So in those moments where you're not playing in that moment, but you're just seeing what someone else is doing, I think it's very important as a player to be able to be a fan of what someone else is doing, especially if they reciprocate that energy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the group as a whole likes the party as, you know what I mean, together. Like everybody likes everyone's character. Yeah. And I mean, like, okay, so I'm totally fine with players not liking, like in game, like not liking somebody else's character, right? Like I don't mind that having like two PCs not like each other, but like I find that, but generally you're supposed to be like I think there's better cohesion if everyone just kind of like wants to be a part of the group and isn't being an antagonist. Because even though you think that it's good character development because my character is like kind of an asshole, I think that you should still want to work with these people, right? Yeah. So you need to have a little bit more than just being like that anti-hero kind of person where you're just like, I guess I'm just with these idiots until I can be better or whatever, right? Like, who cares? Like, no one wants that.
Yeah, there does
get
have
that
to
off
be
my
some
table.
there has to be some sort of consistent reason that your character keeps showing up if they don't like these people.
Yeah, you guys are literally like in life or death scenarios like every hour or two of your day, like your working life, right? Like your job is to fight dragons, and that stuff requires way more than just like a cursory like gruff demeanor. Like just just find something that you like about somebody else's character and just kind of like get invested, because you're gonna be with these people for so long. Like not even just like the actual people across the table, but like the made up people of the characters.
I mean that depends on how long the characters live. My first character not so long, like 1 or 2 sessions, but
yeah, but they still, I mean, we still had moments where like
we really did.
Yeah, there was a part where I thought one of the barbarian liked you, and you guys got like kind of weird, just really funny. Pain's so funny.
Oh man.
And you guys just had like a genuine friendship after a while, and then you just got murdered.
Yeah, he sure did. Trying to save
was,
someone else in the party, he got stabbed in the back.
I know. It was super tragic. I'm like, it's really funny because we bring it up from time to time, like in character. Like, remember that guy?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago in game. But like my new character doesn't even know the guy, so she's like, doesn't even phase her.
Yeah, I know. Oh man, it's so funny. But like, I'm glad that everybody likes all of the characters involved in your story so far.
Yeah.
It feels really good to hear that, like all the effort you put in is like, it's worth it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a feeling that can't be beat.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I think we've covered the Medallion story and a few other things related to it. I also wanted to talk about, because this is something that's been going on for us recently, is playing online versus playing in person.
Yeah.
So of course lately, with everything going on, more people are playing the game online than like in person, and we sort of had to make that adjustment. Like, we've always had the option. Yeah. We just never really explored it, I guess, until very recently. And I guess we've just been like adapting to that sort of thing. So yeah. I'm just wondering, I'll let you speak on this first, like how you've like adapted your game or your prep or your playstyle or anything to fit the online space.
It definitely, how should I say this? It's a lot more work for me. Yeah. Because my DMing style is really loose, and I like just having like options around. And with doing online, well, I guess we're using Roll20. So Roll20, you have to like have a map. You basically can't really just draw a map out of nothing. It's not as easy to just kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, you physically can, but it's not as easy as just like drawing with a marker on a grid.
Yeah. And I want to have all of the, if that's the case, then I want to have all the tokens available to me.
Yeah.
And because everything's integrated with the buttons, I could just click on a button to get the die roll out. So I have to like plan ahead and be like, okay, well, what am I going to use in this fight? I mean, like, I do that anyway, but like I think I want to be a little bit more prepared because I have the ability to. And you have all those layers, right? You can like hide stuff in the GM layer and make them pop out, or like, so. And if you're online anyway, you're not in front of people, I kind of also would like to have a visual aspect to it. Yeah. So I would have, NPC, I have to figure out NPC portraits, right? I can't just be like, I mean, I personally, you can totally, but like, I want to find, okay, well now I have to seriously find NPC portraits and figure out like, what this thing looks like, or like maybe like a setting. I want like you're in like a city, so now I have like to find like a city background or like market background, even though like it's not like a map where you're moving around, but I still want to have like the aesthetic of it, right? Because I feel like my role playing won't be as impactful, or my storytelling won't be as impactful when I'm just on a microphone, be a little box on the screen or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's
you kind of hit the nail on the head there with the comment about doing the prep work, because like for me, when I'm preparing a session, I tend to know, or at least have an idea of, we're gonna have combat in these areas, so I'll prepare these maps, and that's kind of what I aim for. And then I do end up spending a lot of time just looking for a map that like fits what I want to do. And sometimes that has to change just based on what's available to me. Like in a session that we did when you had guessed it in that other previous session, that whole situation that I had during the final combat where you had to solve a puzzle that involved like a clock and everything, that actually came up because I was looking for like forest maps with a shrine in them, and then I saw one that caught my eye that had like 12 points on it. And I was like, oh, maybe I can do something with that. And then I sort of snowballed into having this puzzle I had to deal with while there was a fight going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it is, like, I don't think that's something I would have come up on my own with. Like, I think if I was playing in person, I would have just, like, had the idea of the map and then just put it out there and then just, like, dealt with it. So that's one element that I mean that's that was one good thing that I kind of liked, but I do feel like I have to be more prepared in certain ways for dealing with playing online. I can't just like do combat on the fly or in theater of the mind as much because I have the tool to not have to. I have a tool to make it look better. So it's a combination of wanting to use that tool as well as wanting to be prepared and have a more visually interesting thing going on. Just, I mean, so you can keep people like interested in the game. But also, I think the tools are a benefit because, like me, I like to use music a lot in my games.
Right.
I have a whole bunch of different playlists and stuff. Some of them I can't use in our podcast stuff because it's copyright music and whatever, but I do like to use music when I'm playing my games. Like I have different music for different areas, different settings, different levels of combat or anything like that. So playing online, that's just something that I had to bring over, and I had to figure out a way to make that work in the online space versus in the real space where I can more easily just like flip through different things on my laptop. Now I have to like send it through Discord and stuff like that, but it like between the visual abilities of the whatever virtual tabletop you're using and the audio abilities of whatever you might be using in that case, you do have more room, I think, to sort of create an imagined space. So like, I mean, there are ways you can manage that in person, but I think the advantages of the like digital tabletops and stuff like that are how you can just like when you prepare these things ahead of time, you can make them feel more. How would I describe it? You can prepare these sort of prepare these sort of like scenes and music that you can switch that as you're switching through them, you set that sort of tone. Like it's easier on a virtual tabletop to throw up an image of a forest, just to set the mood of where the PCs might be if they're in a forest or if they're in a city or whatever.
Right.
As opposed to like you can describe it and they can see it in their mind's eye, but if you give them an image, then you know everybody's like basing their imagined space on the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that it's great that we have the online option because, you know, a couple of years ago a while ago we didn't, right? So and you know, of course it's great because this pandemic's here and that's just the reality we live in, right? So, you know, a lot of tables probably move to online games, and like even if like so now, I mean, like life happens and sometimes your gaming group kind of drifts apart, or like someone moves out of the city or across the country or like out of the country, right? But you still want to continue the story on, you still want to like play with these people, you know. I think that it's great, and like the tools, because you like, you know, you could buy like, you know, map packs and just have like the maps, and you can sit there as a DM instead of like drawing it out, you can just put your thing.
I mean, like what it does feel, I wonder if it might feel from the player perspective as well, it does feel a bit more video gamey when you have that grid map to work with.
Yeah, and so one of the things is that, so I had this conversation with my wife because we did play a session over when quarantine was you know, more a hardcore lockdown, right? So we played a game, and she said that, you know, she has a hard time in general kind of being present and like focused at the table because, you know, she doesn't have the patience to like kind of sit there for, you know, so long, right, without things kind of changing, right? I mean, it is engaging for her, but it's just like, you know, she has a hard time doing it, and she had an even harder time while she was just kind of like, you know, online, because it's not the same as being in person, right? And I think it's because online, just the way that, you know, the communication works is that you can't have side conversations with people, right? So it's always one-to-one. So someone's always speaking to the group, and you can't have two conversations at once because there's too much chatter going through. You won't be able to hear the other person, right? And so everyone has to. So now, like, taking your turn and like waiting to come back around feels even longer, right? Because
you are just sitting and waiting. You're not like engaging in something with like the person next to you or whatever.
Yeah, right. And like, you know, I'm always I don't really like, when people, or you're trying to like role play or do stuff, and people are like on their phones or whatever, right? That like I'm not a big fan of that. But like I still understand when people can't just be like listening to me monologue or whatever, right? But so I think that's one of the real main drawbacks I find from playing online. But one thing too is that, so Pathfinder specifically, I mean D&D probably doesn't have this issue because of the flattened math, but Pathfinder, as you guys kind of go up, like the numbers get bigger, right? And you do have to do more math because the numbers are bigger. So like instead of you adding like +5 or +7 or something like that, you're adding like sometimes like two teen digits together, and it's like kind of hard, and you have to do that a whole bunch of times or whatever. It was really nice that in Roll20 you could just click on the attack button and your attack just goes and calculates it for you.
Yeah, that is like probably one of the biggest strengths, is those automatic calculations, automatic die rolls.
Yeah. Out of everything, that was everyone's feedback, was like, man, like clicking the button was kind of fun. And the fact that like I had my character sheet, because they're really new to the game too. And just having stuff kind of listed out for them, and I like to take care of my players a lot. So like I went in beforehand and populated all of their character sheets, because I like to keep them and maintain them, because no one's ever going to play this game with these characters without me anyway. So I like to keep the character sheets, because it doesn't really make any sense. But I could, you know what I mean? So I had those stuff. So I made sure I went in there beforehand, populated all the sheets, make sure everything kind of made sense. And then I went through all the sheets with them. So like they really appreciated how easy it was to kind of like, just click on the ability, right? And it has a little drop down, and I put the information in and what it does. And like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that. Just a really quick reference guide, because, there is a space on the sheet for, sudden charge. But if you don't remember what sudden charge actually is, then how are you gonna use it, right? You're just gonna be like, I don't remember what that is, and you have to go look through the book and stuff. So.
Yeah, like on the paper sheet, you write it down. There's a spot for it, but there's no room to write what it physically does.
Right, and the cool and like with the spells and stuff, it's like, oh, I just press this button and then it pops up on the feed, and so now everybody else can reason. They're like, oh, okay, I totally understand, right?
Yeah. I mean, that really helps when you're trying to understand what a spell does. You can just show it to everyone like instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really hoping like we can combine like the best elements of, like, once we're able to play in person more often, or again, we can combine the elements of like those things.
Yeah.
Like like we were talking about this briefly over the weekend. I'm just imagining, I think optimally it'd be like playing Jackbox. Like how people would just like play the game on their phone, and then you have the main screen on your TV or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be great, because like some stuff is just like hard to keep track of on like the tabletop, and things kind of get cluttered. Like it's easier to for a DM to track HP, because the HP is attached to the token, right? Something as simple as that. Or like having to remember a monster's AC or something like that. You could just have that all information. Roll20 gives you a spot for it, right? You can put it all there, right? And you could just click on the token, know exactly what's going on with that monster or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think the ease of use, I think, is the major thing with virtual tabletops. That hopefully we can start using again once we were playing in person more.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I'm down for that. Like some people like rolling the dice, some people like pressing the button. I just want everyone to have the option that they like, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love rolling those little math rocks.
Those polyhedrons.
Can't get enough of those. I'm actually just like, since we're not playing in person as much, I haven't been buying as much dice, because I can say for sure on the trajectory that I was going, if what happened this summer hadn't happened, I would have gotten like at minimum one new set of dice per month.
Yeah, you just be swimming at the dice. You be winning with the dice, Calvin. That's what you be winning. You be winning with the dice.
We should get Win with Dice branded dice bags. We should find a company that does that.
Yeah.
All right. Ramon, how do you feel about single person playing? Like playing one person, one DM? because we have done that before on our channel with our classic Gold Knight episode, which you should go check out. Yeah, so I just wanted to pick your brain on that because I have some thoughts on it, but I like to let you talk first so I can come up with a better worded answer.
I like it. I think that every DM and players should do like a one-on-one session. I'm kind of like trying to schedule is kind of tough right now, and I want to do before we actually start back like our Ineon game, which probably won't start back really till like next year. But I really want to try and do like the one-on-one sessions. Like the one we did with Macy was like really, really fun. And and like the one we did with Gold Knight, I found it was really, really fun. I thought it was nice because it was like, you didn't have to wait for your turn. Like it's just like bam, 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 bam.
Turn,
you know what I mean? Right? It's just like, and it feels really cool because it's like, you don't have to. You just make your own decisions, right?
Yeah, you don't have to debate anything.
Yeah, you don't have to debate anything. You don't have to like bother with anybody else. Like, but like also it's just like you get to have like these cool scenarios where it's not like it's like you can really just like be a hero and you did it all yourself and you can feel really cool about that, right? I think that it's actually easier to do than people think it is.
But I mean, of course it is.
Yeah, but I think that you have to get around your head that there should be like multiple fail states, right? So in terms of like group play, it's like instead of it being so your character failed at doing something, somebody else can pick up where you fell and take it to the finish line, right? You have the ability to bounce off each other. But if you're by yourself, like if you mess up, right, or something goes wrong with a wrong dice roll, if you just like you're trying to jump a pit and you fail the dice roll and you fall into the pit, then that's not fun for anybody. The DM has well, I guess we're done, right? But that's not satisfying, right?
Yeah, no.
So you just have to, right. So you just have to like have the multiple levels. Like you just constantly from the firing pan into the fire levels of like trouble you're getting into, which in itself is kind of fun, right? Like and just kind of. Some DMs out there like to prepare a lot. I find that in a one-on-one game, you have to prepare probably more content because you're gonna blow through a whole bunch of stuff. But then it's like you just have to kind of trust yourself to just kind of like go with it, right? It's I think one-on-one sessions are a little bit more like a little bit improv-y, you know what I mean? Because you have like your goal marks where you're trying to get to, but getting there, you don't really know what that one person's going to do or what the dice rolls are going to get you.
Yeah, you do have to worry about and engage with that as you're doing like one player games. But I do also think it's more engaging because again, you're not waiting for someone else to do something or watching someone else do something. You are like at every point in time, the player is the focus of the game. There's no moment where the player is ever like disengaged because the entire thing is focused on them specifically. So like as far as prep work goes, you do need to be aware that combat is gonna go a bit faster, just like because like you don't have to worry about like 4 other players or whatever doing different things, and because you have less players, you're probably gonna have less creatures on the field, so you don't have to worry about like 8 other creatures doing their thing. You're more able to lean into especially like these one-on-one battles,
right? But also like stuff that used to be like kind of whatever because it's for PCs can be like really, really scary. Like could you imagine if you were like a level 1 character and you had to fight an ogre all by yourself? Like it would just be like, this thing is like crazy strong. Like one wrong move, you might as well like, instead of it being like you charge into combat, maybe you're like before, like you're trying very hard not even to try and get into combat with this thing, right? So it becomes this like kind of cat and mouse game where you're just like, well, I don't want to fight this thing, I'm gonna try and get around it somehow, right? And then it'd be a cool different change of pace of like a different like, I don't know, movie set, instead of it being like an action movie where like you're blowing through a bunch of bad guys, to it being like a horror movie where like you're just trying very, very hard not to get sighted by this thing, right?
Yeah, I think a one-on-one stealthy or rogue campaign would be really interesting. I don't know if we can fit that in our future somewhere.
Anything's possible with enough time.
Anything's possible when you win with dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you do have the options of doing some very different things when you're playing with one person, because like when you're playing with a group of people, you have to keep in mind what everyone is going to want to do to be cool and is going to want to do to get the most out of what their character is. So you might want to have like something where your charisma-based PCs can do more talking, where your more combat-heavy PCs can like really flex those muscles, and you have to consider what does the player like to do. So how do I create those spaces when players might like different things than other players? But when you're just playing with one person, then you know like, oh, they like doing RP stuff, so I'll set up more time for that. They like doing combat stuff, so I'll make sure to have interesting combats. They like doing like sneaky around. So let me lean into these sneaking rules and see how I can expand them to better compensate for one person.
Right.
And yeah, I think also from the player perspective, you're always like in it. There's no point in time where I think it would be very hard in a one-on-one game to get distracted.
Yeah. I don't think you can, like, cause it's just so you just know there's no time to like there's no break.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it also would kind of relate to what we talked about before regarding NPCs in the party, where I mean, depending on what kind of combat scenarios you set your PC into, you might want to have someone around who's like got their back, especially if you're playing like a class-based game and you've got someone who's very combat focused but they're not really able to support themselves. You might want to throw in like just someone who can help them out, and you can get a lot of mileage with an NPC that's very helpful to the PC, because like it doesn't feel so much as like they're dragging this weight around as it is like this is a person who's actively helping them and actively engaged in their success.
Yeah, and I like it because then it's like, you know, as well, if you're you know, you get to, I mean, like you can role play like little characters NPCs that aren't just antagonists, right? Like you could have like you can role play with the PC and, you know, getting them through the situation. Yeah, you have a lot more room for certain options of things. I think in a lot of ways it's easier, but it is also in some ways hard. That feels like such a non-statement. It's easier and harder, but it is. You might find yourself having to prepare more things, but as a result, you're going to end up with a more engaged and focused game that will really it'll get through that content quickly, maybe, but there will definitely be a lot more engagement with that content. Each moment, each step will matter a lot more if it's just one person doing those things. Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I think that about covers that. I do like really have fun doing one-on-one stuff though, from either side of the screen.
I have this whole crazy idea for some characters where like they get to like fight vampires and stuff, like, and like, you know, I had this idea for a PC where like they go and join an evil martial arts tournament a la like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And they get to beat up like I'm excited, but I need to find the time and the energy to do it. But I'm hoping I'm get to do those one-on-one sessions with the PCs this year. Oh, I had another idea where like there's like a high stakes poker game.
Yeah.
And like they're like
James Bond.
Yeah. And like people have to like put up like there's like a treasure map involved, and like but people are trying to put up like their bar and stuff as like they're like ending up the bar, and it's like whether or not like, you know, I'm so excited to do it, but I need to have some reprieve from life for like a little bit so I can get my head into it and get it all fleshed out.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds awesome. Like you can do these very specific genre things that you might not have room to do in a larger game because you have to consider what every person is into. If you just have one person, then it's like they would be into this, so I'm gonna do this and this specifically.
Yeah, and even if they're not that much into it, they're gonna have really like they're never gonna complain that you put a lot of effort into something for them.
Yeah.
They're never gonna be like, that was kind of a waste of time. I didn't really want it. I wasn't too into it. They're gonna be like, wow, you did all this stuff for me. You gave me all this attention.
Yep, just for you. I mean, they also do have a lot more influence than they would in a group.
Yeah.
Instead of being a third of whatever's pulling the party in a certain, or a fourth or a quarter or like a fifth or whatever, they are the main influence in the direction.
And I think it's great. Online games, like playing games online, like one-on-one for online, I think it's the perfect place, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's actually, that's really,
right.
That's a good point.
You don't have to prepare a lot, like physically online. You don't have to talk to multiple people or a group or whatever. Like you're just always talking to each other. So, you know, it's all one-on-one. Like it's just easy. And like, honestly, I don't even do the dice on the thing. Like we could just do it over like Discord or something like that. Like just have the dice in front of you, because, you know, as much as I don't have power gamer friends who are just like, you're like, I rolled 5 20s in a row. It's like, did you really? Like, you know, they're not like that. So I'm like, yeah, man, you want to see your character fail too. Like that's like the whole fun part, because you don't want to be failing when, like, you know, you're finally fighting the Dark Lord and you know, but you know, if you're gonna roll the dice you're gonna fail trying to pick up this one chick at the bar, then it's fine. You just let it happen, right? Like, you shouldn't be so worried about winning everything, you know?
I think some people are just very adverse to failure, even in game spaces.
Yeah, no, I'm like that too. I like to win a lot, but it's different. It's different when I'm a DM. I'm not that crazy. I like to put the fear of God into the PCs, and that's where I feel like I've won. If they're like, wow, if they're like, wow, we could have died, and it's like, yes, you could have, but good thing you guys are so special and awesome.
I'm trying to do that more, but I still haven't gotten there. I'm still like,
you're a softy, Calvin. Man.
I'm a big old softy.
You're a big old softy.
The day I kill a PC will be the day I've made my final Darth Vader-esque turn to the dark side.
It just no.
Where's the PC? Are they all right? It seems in your dice roll you killed them.
That's puts on the helmet. Oh man.
Yeah, do you want to talk about Sandbox stuff for a bit?
Like,
I was kind of thinking about doing like a Sandbox RPG in terms of RPGs, but it fits very well with like fantasy-based RPGs where exploration is such a core pillar of that you're more likely to be going out and going to new towns, or walking through a forest, or walking through a desert, and you come across a random encounter and you fight a wild creature and you get something from it, or you're doing a quest for someone in some new space and stuff like that. I think the fantasy genre is very like proactive in terms of the PCs. Like me, I was thinking about can I do a sandbox like superhero RPG, and I don't know how that would work, because the superhero genre on the base level is very reactive in terms of the PCs. Like a villain does something, and then you and your ragtag bunch of idiots has to go like deal with it. I'm just trying to think of like how someone would prepare and run like sandbox stuff, because I think it could also work in like a sci-fi RPG, because you do have that exploration space. I was just trying to figure out personally what new things I could do with superheroes, but like how do you, because our Path of Inion game, it's very sandbox. So like,
it is.
What was your process going into that, I guess?
My process was I had like a million ideas.
Yeah.
It was like I had one metric ton of ideas,
and instead of having to choose one.
Instead of having to choose one, and I got really burnt out previously because I was trying to follow like trying to make an overarching storyline, but trying to make it like tighter. And I was like, I think that's just not the player I am, and not the DM I am. Like, it's just not the So I just really needed to have. I like the idea of it being easy on my, where I don't really need to like think of like so far ahead in the future. I could just be like, here are these branches, here's these kind of dungeon ideas that I've came up with. They're just out there for you guys to explore. Whichever one you choose to do it, that's the one I'll prepare for the week. You know what I mean? It's always like you have to like you have to like give them a menu, right, of like possibilities, and then just let them tell you. And then you obviously put a little effort into it before, but now you can like fine tune it for that week's session, and then bang it out. And I created like the beginning Neon game. I think I gave you like I had like 6 ideas, right? Some were more fleshed out than others, but I just gave you like 6 ideas, and you guys kind of chose, because you guys are, the party was split before at the beginning of the game, because I wanted that interaction of like, oh, what did you do? What did you do before, right?
Yeah.
So, you guys chose 2 options out of the list, and then I just prepared those. And then, I just said like the rest of the storyline you could get to later or not, or whatever you uncover from these 2 dungeons, they might lead you somewhere else, and then just go off of there, and just giving the players the agency. The hard part is just having the ideas. If you can't come up with enough kind of cool shit to do, then that's where I don't think you really can do a sandbox game. And that's just really it. It's just trying to like what is the bare minimum amount of work I have to do to make this feel cool, and then just repeating it a whole bunch of times, and then letting your players choose and just being okay with it.
Yeah, is it would you say it's sort of like wider planning versus deeper planning, whether you're focusing on like a single storyline versus setting up different plots for people to go to? Like, you can, instead of having to delve deep into each particular point of a plot that may come up, or each particular character that they might run into, instead of going that deep, you go wide, where you have these smaller details. Here's something over here, here's something over here. This person gives you a quest to go collect stuff in this space. This person gives you a quest to go kill a creature in this space, or you find something while you're out there, and it might be less immediately deep than, say, like a very long-term, like specifically focused storyline. But the PCs have more options, and you have less you have maybe a bit like individual pieces of prep work instead of a big chunk of prep work.
Right. So yeah, it's still like a big chunk of prep work, but it's sliced up into smaller pieces. That's one. There's just a lot of small pieces. But honestly, like, okay, you make a dungeon, whatever, like a couple of rooms, a couple of floors, and it takes you give them a session. Like you have the entry session where you guys are going there. You may have some trouble on the way. You may have to solve a puzzle at the beginning, and now you're in it and you're going through room by room and scouring out the place and finding off these secrets, right? You're probably only going to go through half of the place at that best, right? So then the next session, your players are still in there. You don't have to actually think about all the other parts on the map that you haven't figured out. You just have to be like, okay, cool. Now you know that they're gonna finish the dungeon the next time, right? Mm-hmm. So now you're like, all right, what are the pieces gonna find out at the end of the dungeon, and what does that mean for the rest of the bits and pieces out there? Is there maybe a part out there that I can draw the line to and connect it, and that's like their next logical place to go? Is there multiple places to go? Or maybe they just have to kind of bounce around till they find the one that connects further out the right node to go to the next set of branches, right?
Yeah.
or maybe, I don't know, one of your PCs says they're writing a book about werewolves, and you really just had a floating quest line out there trying to find this missing ranger. You didn't really know where the ranger was going to pop up, but you know that you guys are going to go on adventures, and eventually you're going to find some information on him.
I gotta stop giving you knives to put in my back.
It's so good, Calvin. You're like a well of resources, man. Like, it's crazy. You just say something and I'm like, that's it. That's the whole storyline right there.
It's always afterwards when I realize what you've done and what I've done.
Exactly, right? But that's the best part. It's like, I think sandbox games or campaigns are really great for DMs to just kind of like, you know, sit back and just listen to what your players are talking about.
Yes.
Right? You know, it's like if your character, you know, one of the characters is like, I really hate lizard men and they're my backstory, and like, I like to fight lizard men because I don't like them. Then you could just be like, cool, the next thing is lizard men, and your player in that party is like, ah, damn, those lizard men, you know, like instantly like satisfied, right? Because, you know, they get to explore their backstory, they get to talk about why they don't like lizard men. Maybe they come to some conclusion at the end that maybe lizard men not that bad, and maybe, or whatever, or maybe he was justified because, you know, the lizard men are trying to summon their lizard god or something, right? And it's just like, you know, you can just take that, because sometimes players have a really good backstory that has a, you know, you could just draw off of. Sometimes it's like one-shot stuff where you could just have them come in and a bunch of shadow dudes show up and try to shadow kidnap you, but you in the middle of nowhere because one person has a shadowy backstory.
So yeah, so it's easier to like react as a DM within your planning as you're doing like a sandbox game.
Yeah, if I would distill it to, okay, so step one, have a bunch of ideas.
Sure.
Right. Step two, present those quests to your players. Step three, you know, run the one dungeon, and after you've run that dungeon, reevaluate of where if anything has changed in the other quest lines, and then present them back to the player. And then you just repeat that over and over again until you have some sort of storyline going, and then, you know, your next plot point, you could retroactively connect all those dots. And then the best part is that things can just seem kind of nebulous and like, oh, why is that happening over there and why is that happening over there? But the instant you're able to like have like the joining bits, like, and everything kind of like, I can see if it does like nodes on like a board, and everything's like, you know, the crazy nodes on the conspiracy board, and all the lines kind of connected, and you finally pull back and you see the big picture.
Yeah.
Right. And honestly, that big picture, it's all made up. Like, literally, like, you had no idea that you were going to plan this elaborate storyline because of the sandboxing, right? They just you just retroactively connected the dots.
Yeah.
Which I think it's way better for me than building some sort of long, elaborate end boss kind of thing right from the beginning. I think that's
easier to gosh, I had a train of thought and I lost it. I think that's easier to adapt to just like your PC's decisions along the way, rather than trying to, if you have like the idea of the storyline or where you want it to go, and then you have to like bend it to get to that point where it's like if you have, like, you're trying to get from one point to one point, so you have your straight line because you know where this thing is starting, and you know what you want them to face by the end. And as you're playing, you might bend the line and shift it a bit, but you kind of know where it's going, and then you have to put the work into bending and shifting that line, as opposed to following a branch and just ending up wherever that leads.
Yeah. So okay, so to quickly run through like a Neon game a little bit. So it was like the first thing you guys did was, so one group fought a bunch of kobolds, and the kobolds were held up in their cobalt cave, and like was really like, and they also found that they were fighting goblins, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, because you guys are going to fight goblins eventually later in one of the storylines, right? And then so I was like, okay, the kobolds and the goblins are fighting. You don't really know why. You don't really care because you're gonna kill them all anyway because they're a bunch of kobolds and goblins. Like, who cares, right? And then the other group went off and found some caves and fought some zombies and looted like a temple or like a crypt.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, but that storyline had nothing to do with the rest of it. It's just like there's like a crypt out there with a bunch of magic loot. Get it and you get out. And the next session, you guys, when they went back to go loot the thing more, I was like, how am I going to connect the kobolds and the goblins and the fact that this crypt exists? So when you guys went through the crypt, you guys got about halfway, like I remembered, right? Then when they came back again the next day to kind of finish raiding it or exploring it, you saw some kobolds. It's like a negotiation between the kobolds and the goblins and like another third mysterious party, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, the pieces kind of got into it and there was like this three-way fight between like the kobolds and the goblins and the PCs. PCs won. They're like, that was weird. Why were the kobolds all mad? And then I let them say like, oh man, because they spot the PCs, the kobolds thought the goblins were working with the PCs because last time the other group attacked them, right? And so after, you know, that fell through, we went back to the kobold group, that kobold dungeon. You guys clear out the kobold dungeon, and then later in the sessions, right, when you're finally going to go attack the goblin home base, which is way more stronger than theirs, you guys ran into a bunch of goblins, captured like the rest of the kobolds that were there because you drove all the kobolds out of their hole.
Yeah, we really.
The kobolds have nowhere to go, and all the goblins captured all the kobolds, right? And it's like you're like, oh man, my actions have ramifications.
Yes.
Right. These poor kobolds have been captured by these goblins to what end, right? And maybe if you attacked the goblins first, maybe the kobolds would be fine. Which I thought was kind of cool. And then you're like, because I said previously that it was dangerous to be kind of being an adventurer out these woods because they're saying like adventurers aren't coming back. Either they're getting lost in the woods or goblins are catching them. You don't know what they were catching them for. And then all of a sudden there was werewolves and you're like, oh my God, what happened? And it turns out the goblins are turning people into werewolves.
Like they do.
Well, I know, right? Like they do, right? So then I had, you know, I thought it was just, I don't know. I'm having so much fun in Indian, like just making up stuff. And you guys are just like, yeah, this makes total sense. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think that's really a strength of the sandbox style of gaming.
Yeah.
You're just able to react so much more as opposed to making up a plan, executing the plan, and then expecting the plan to go off the rails. And then you have to try to figure out how to get it back.
Yeah, and I could like take that like one side off character, a little halfling that someone spoke to once, and turn him into like a bad guy. Mitch the halfling, you guys didn't even realize was working with Macy's criminal brother this entire time.
Knew he was up to something.
But Jokesy like really wasn't until like, man, I need someone to connect these stories. Who each other person has talked to, you know. And I was like, oh yeah, there's that one halfling that talked to one person at the party one time, and that same halfling got like arrested, and because the player wasn't in the session for so long, when he came back, and I was like, yeah, and you guys are telling him how you got a halfling that was at the docks, like you basically harassed a halfling at the docks, and you guys got arrested because of it. And then Joel was like, wait, you mean this halfling? And you're like, yeah, that halfling. And he was like, oh yeah, he offered me some money so I could go, you know, try and like steal something from you guys. And you're like, wait, what? That halfling was a bad guy?
Because yeah, at the time it was just, oh man, that was a really hilarious session where we're trying to investigate, and then we have all these dwarves that were just messing everything up because they were followers of one of our player characters, and they had been instructed to assist with this investigation, and their assistance basically boiled down to going around and bothering people. And because my character was the party leader, like all the responsibility eventually fell on her, and she had like just become the party leader at that point in time. It was very recent.
Yeah, It was hilarious. I think it was like that session or something. You were like promoted
wasn't
official.
it?
Yeah, you were promoted to official party leader. Like the NPCs recognize you as the party leader, and like you instantly were like, you're just disappointed. I guess you messed up so bad.
Oh man, it was just like, it was so hilarious in the moment.
Yeah.
My character was so stressed, but I found it really funny.
Yeah, man, like good times. Anyway, yeah, so if you haven't run a sandbox game, do it. It's fun. I gotta admit, it's way more relaxed than trying to stitch together a crazy overarching story from scratch.
Yeah.
Just people just want to.
That's why I was trying to adapt it to like superhero stuff.
Yeah.
But superhero stuff, it's very much more reactive. So you kind of have to have more of an idea of, these are what the villains are planning. This is what they're going to do, and then try to give the PCs as much room as possible. That's what I'm gonna try to do in the future. But yeah, I think other genres just like work better for that. Because in those other genres, you're able to get a quest to go slaughter a bunch of things in a space, instead of living in the real modern world where you're not allowed to. I mean, it depends.
Yeah, it does depend. But I feel like that's the hallmark of superheroes, right? You always have the villains do something bad and the heroes show up to save the day, right?
Yeah.
But being adventurers in like a fantasy setting, it's like you're going into town and you're trying to see what these towns, whatever trouble this town's in, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't show up, what would they do? And then you go off and deal with the problem.
Yeah, that's basically, that's your job as a player. You deal with the problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with that we can probably start to maybe wrap this up a bit. But yeah, like as far as sandbox stuff goes, if you haven't tried it, maybe just dip a hand into like doing that style of prep work and see if it works out better for you to do something that's I guess more PC led as far as planning goes.
Yeah, and like just listen to your PCs, like.
Yeah, in any scenario, whatever your planning is.
They have just as good ideas as you, and I think that you can really hurt your head trying to be cool and think of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta like sit back and let them kind of tell you what they want and just give it to them, because that's what's gonna make them happy.
Yeah, they know what they want, as long as they'll figure out a way to tell you. Yeah. But I think that'll do it for this episode. As we roll into our outro, I just want to again say thanks for 100 subs. It means a lot to everyone with the team.
Big 100.
Big 100, yeah. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm trying not to be super emotional about it on camera, but
The big 10 by 10. so we like, I don't know. It's doing this podcast with you, Calvin, is pretty fun, man.
It is, man.
I gotta admit, yeah, it's cool. I was saying, like, I don't really have like another DM friend to talk about DM stuff.
Aw.
So I'm glad that we get to do this together.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, same. I need someone who I can like talk about like very nitty gritty DMing stuff without feeling like I'm tipping my hand too much to a specific player.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's what I like about this. But yeah, so if you like this, why don't you click the like button and let us know that you like it. You want to see more, just hit that subscribe button. And if you're on YouTube, hit the bell so you get social notifications about all the videos that we put out. If you want to hear more from us, just check us out on the socials, on Twitter at Facebook at WinWithDice. Check out our website, winwithdice.ca. And yeah, I would think that's about it. That's all our links and stuff. So, Ramon, you have anything else you want to add before we head off?
No, but just, just be patient, guys. Just relax. DMing and doing RPGs and all that stuff, it's Don't stress yourself out about it. Everyone's just trying to have fun. Let's go have fun.
Yeah. Don't
Go
stress
go
too much.
win. Go win with your dice.
Yeah, that is our message. That is what we want people to walk away from this channel with. You go on out there, whatever side of the screen you're on, whatever role you play, in whatever game you might be playing, just keep on winning with dice. And we'll catch you next time, folks. Take care.
Bye, guys.